So tell us about Still Life Lives.
Oh, we're so excited about this show for a lot of reasons. The first reason, predominantly, is that we get to focus on contemporary art. But with that, we also get to revisit some of the really amazing 19th and 20th century paintings that we have in our collection that are still life. And so one of the really wonderful things about this show is that we get to mine our collection, dust off those paintings, put them on view again, but put them in conversation with some truly amazing explorations of the still life genre by just about 30 artists working today in the region. And so in pretty much every gallery space, you'll see a moment, be it a freestanding wall or a different section of the gallery that is devoted to the permanent collection, and then that's usually surrounded by work that we've gone out and collected on loan for the show. That includes painting and photography, collage, and sculpture. And we're also really pleased that with this show, we were able to have two very special installations come together. One is on the wall to your left. That's Elisa H. Hamilton's An Apple a Day project. And so she has 365 small drawings of apples that she's done, each in different colors with different mixed media materials like crayon and gouache and colored pencil. They're really colorful, and they provide a really interesting look at an everyday object over the course of time, and all of the different magical ways that you can sort of see the same object day after day, but with new eyes and a fresh perspective. So she came and installed that work, special here for us, which we're so excited about. And then actually later today and through the day tomorrow, Randall Thurston will be back, and he was here last week to start some of his mapping out of his installation. He'll be back later today and tomorrow completing that, and that installation will be in the next room on the next wall, and you can see sort of bits and pieces of what he's been experimenting with. He works predominantly with cut paper, and the paper is black, so it creates this wonderful effect of a silhouette. And he has mined the still life tradition, still life floral bouquets, and ideas of mortality as well, which is an undercurrent that everyone sort of grapples with when they're dealing with the tradition. And he's going to create a wonderful, sprawling, vine-like form that's going to have offshoots of flowers and take over the wall in really incredible ways. It's meant to offer a place for people to dive in a little deeper into the themes of the exhibition, get a little historical perspective, but also experiment with some of the themes. And we have a lot of hands-on activities that are very engaging, so it provides another layer of thought and interpretation to complement the show. And so one of the sections Laura has designed is actually devoted to Elisa. And you can see here, she has these sample drawings that she's put on display. And with each of them, she's sort of written out the different layers of the tool, the art making tool that she used to create her apples. So in this one, for example, she uses crayon for the texture of the apple. She has an ink wash, which is the gray behind the blue background. There's acrylic ink that is the bright blue that you see here. And the gouache is the dark blue. So all of these different layers provide a really textured, sort of almost multi-dimensional feel to each tiny drawing. So we are in the mezzanine area of the second floor of the Fitchburg Art Museum, and this is where Still Life Lives begins. And so to sort of underscore the fact that we're really honing in on these relationships between the tradition of still life and the way that contemporary artists are interpreting that today, I've put together 8 photographs by Kimberly Witham, a contemporary artist who creates her own sort of still life vignettes and then photographs them. And there are some surprises in there because they have a very sort of decorative feel to them. These are very lovely, cute, flower-filled images But also, if you look a little bit closer, you'll realize that she's including animals, and those animals are actually examples of the roadkill that she has found in her travels. So there's something slightly darker underneath the surface of these images, which also translate to some of the themes of life and death and mortality and impermanence so present in the still life tradition. So there's a lot going on in these images, and I decided right off the bat to pair them with, we have 3 paintings by our own Eleanor Norcross, the founder of the Fitchburg Art Museum. So we have her still life images of decorative arts right here, and we also have 2 watercolors by Constance Bigelow, also a Fitchburg painter. So I'm so thrilled that in this opening area we're able to do a shout out to contemporary and also really ground the show with the core of Fitchburg, which we all hold dear. And so we can move into the next space. And this is a space full of lots of fun color and whimsy and really different approaches to the objects that might make up a still life composition. We mentioned the apples earlier, but we also have work here by Justin Michel that is collaged, and it puts still life in motion. So rather than having static objects, he has the same objects of still life sort of swirling around in different vortexes, getting you to think about them in different ways. We also have photography and drawings that take different approaches to the fruit of still life, to artists who are creating their own still life vignettes and then either drawing or photographing those, but also those artists who are sort of wandering around in everyday life situations and noticing the still lives that other people are sort of putting together in their daily routines and documenting those. We also have lots of different combinations here between minimalist approaches to the genre. You know, I talked about the motion that's happening here. We also have some very realistic approaches to still life. Janet Rickus here and Scott Pryor behind you, both painters. They give you very heightened examples of very representational and realistic displays. And what I love about Janet's work in particular is that, you know, she's giving you squash and watermelon, but she's arranged them in a way where they look like little collections of families. They look as though they are taking on anthropomorphic qualities. And I think that's something really new and different that she's doing in her already exquisite paintings. If you turn around, we have Victor Schrager's photographs and Elizabeth Costa-John's drawings on either side here. And Victor Schrager is using, again, a complete update of the objects that you might typically see in still life. So we've got dishwashing detergent bottles and a deodorant stick and a light bulb, and they're really beautiful blocks of color, highly reflective surfaces, getting you to think about the everyday vignettes you might see in your own kitchen in totally new ways. And Elizabeth here has sort of created these magnificent mandalas of unexpected objects, Doritos, Fruit Loops. These are not simply the grapes and peaches of, you know, the Dutch still life masters. These are everyday snacks that you might find in the 21st century. So I love that the artists are really pulling from what they know and pulling from what's hip and what's in the now. And then of course we have sculpture by David Furman. These are quite extraordinary too, because here we really get at themes of trompe-l'oeil in still life. And trompe-l'oeil is a French word for trick of the eye or fool the eye. And it's a style that you can see in both painting and sculpture alike, and even a little bit in architecture. And here, David has created what look like completely authentic paint brushes, a paint can, and over there we have a drawer full of tools and a canister of pencils and markers and a watercolor paints. And yet, each of these is created from, these are ceramic objects. These are not what you think they are. The entire sculpture is created from ceramic. So these are really fun as well. In this gallery, very large and in front of you, are 2 sets of photographs by Tara Celios. And right here, they are both from her series Impulses. And they're untitled pieces within that series, but we have 2 octopi that Tara has actually laid out on a table in her studio. She's created this entire vignette in her studio and then photographed it. And it's completely dark and saturated. And here you're you're very viscerally, you're seeing those themes of impermanence and mortality. And in this series too, she's very interested in ideas of coupling, and that coupling can be, the dichotomy of life and death, but it can also be 2 different interpretations of something. So it can be 2 people in love. So there's lots of coupling happening in this. And in her photographs here, you can see it again in these 2 goblets that are also, they have sinister seeming undertones. And it's just an exquisite representation that's highly detailed of that dark, dark background and this foreground that seems to jump at you. So it looks, these glasses look very highly realistic, as though you could reach out and touch them and they'd break and shatter right in front of your eyes. So what's really great about a lot of these contemporary pieces is that they're taking the themes and subject matter and the realism so present in the still life tradition from the Dutch 17th century, and they're updating it, and the ways that they're updating it are not only in terms of subject matter, but they're also updating it in terms of technique. So in a lot of these images, you'll see a mishmash sometimes of cubism and abstraction and realism all coming together in the same moment. And so it's both of those updating that are kinds of updates that are, I think, really exciting about what's going on with the contemporary artists in this show.